You're listening to the Toolstation Western League podcast with Ian Knockolds and Tom Hiscott.
Welcome to episode 30 of the Toolstation Western League podcast with me, Ian Knockolds, and I'm delighted to come onto the line. It's Tom Hiscott, of course, the author of the Western League Bulletin. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm doing well myself, so that's important, I guess. It's a bit of a tough time for everybody, but yeah, not doing too bad at the moment. Yourself?
I'm doing all right. I've managed to survive 2 days of homeschooling my children, which I don't know whether I've survived it or they've survived it, really. It's
Joint
been
effort.
very much so. I mean, I have to say, it is quite a sort of, I've really enjoyed the experience of spending time at home with the kids and learning, because obviously they're not at school at the moment and the schools have sent back little tasks for them to do. And I mean, they're only at primary school, so I mean, I can't, I'm not being taxed mentally that much, but it is quite sort of, I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to sit down and do some maths and English and all that sort of stuff that I'm very pleased that I left behind academically many years ago. Whether I feel the same in about 9 weeks or not, I don't know. I'll probably be pulling my hair out, but I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, how have you been coping with sort of being locked up at home?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? trying to pass the time, trying to keep some sort of, schedule, but it's difficult, isn't it, with nothing really happening, I guess. Getting my one use of going out every day, try and go out early in the morning and get some fresh air. Fortunately, the weather's all right, so that's a boost, I guess. But yeah, when you come home, you're sort of catching up on movies that I've never seen before, and I've got sort of, probably fallen by the wayside, have other important things happening and missed out on watching them. So yeah, catching up on a few old bits and bobs that probably should have watched in the past, but now I've got the time. But yeah, it's difficult. Passing the time as best as possible.
As well as lockdown continues, then of course I think we'll probably have to start getting your movie reviews.
Maybe
that would be good. That'd be a good feature. I mean, the other thing, of course, I've started doing this Joe Wicks workout.
Oh, I did it this morning.
With Joe Wicks.
I did it this morning. I did. I'd heard obviously it was going well, and obviously I'd not working at the moment, but I do work at a school, so I'd seen them talking about it quite a lot. And my mum works at school as well, and she said they'd been using it, so I did tune in this morning. Give myself, as I say, get myself up and going in the morning. So yeah, I did try. It is much more difficult than I anticipated.
You were telling me I haven't done any exercise for 10 years. I mean, it's taken the coronavirus and Joe Wicks to actually get me doing some lunges again.
Maybe there's a positive.
I mean, it's I've found it really enjoyable. I mean, I do it with the kids, but unfortunately, I'm just dead scared with some of those knee sort of exercises. I don't want to start. I'm worried I'm going to take them out.
I was doing some stretches that I never even knew really existed. So it was I'm a bit stiff already, and that was only a few hours ago I'd done that. So I don't know how I'll feel tomorrow morning, but we'll wait and see.
Well, I'm really pleased. I know that you're tuning in. I'll be there as well. It's like, yes, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's the virtual community. And of course, we're very much here at the podcast conscious of our virtual community. And in order to bring this back to Western League football, I did actually see yesterday a tweet from Welton Rovers. One of their players, Chris Pyle, has put out some exercises for kids to do. I think it's football related, whilst they're obviously at home. So I mean, whether or not I'll be able to successfully attempt those on my children, I'm yet to find out. But clearly, plenty of activities going on, not only in the wider world but also in the Western League world during this lockdown, and that's very much the theme of what we're going to be bringing you today. We're going to have an element of the sort of the current situation, if you like, and also we'll be trying to give you an element of normal football to talk about as well. We're going to kick off with an interview that I've done with John Paul, the chairman of the Toolstation Western League, where we talk about the league's view on the current postponement of matches. And also we will be concluding on time, I'm pleased to say. We were going to break down the interviews I did with Martin Cassidy, of course, of Ref Support, into 4 parts. And possibly the only thing that is concluding on time in the entire football world at the moment is that very interview schedule. But we're going to play you the whole interview today. We missed an episode last week because I did an interview with Dave Brammer for the obviously for the podcast, and that was at the sort of outbreak of the current fixture hiatus. But obviously John Paul will be bringing us, will be bringing you up to date. Now, really, where the story is at the moment, Tom, the Western League issued a statement, didn't they? I think it was on Saturday. It went out to the clubs, and it was made sort of public to the fans on social media on Monday, and it was a statement that really was setting out the league's position before a meeting with all of the leagues at steps 5 and 6 in the FA that happened yesterday. Now, obviously, I will talk to John in the interview about that meeting. But Tom, could you just give us a flavour of what the Western League were promoting on Monday?
Toolstation league is, like the rest, wanting to know how they're going to get on with the season. So they did, release that statement, as you said, and they'd obviously looked at various options as to how the season could be concluded. And obviously everyone's doing that, not just the leagues, but the clubs and players and what have you. Obviously there's a range of possibilities. This is from their statement. And obviously whichever one was finally decided upon, it's going to be inevitable that some clubs and leagues will be disappointed. Obviously, not everybody's probably going to have the same opinions as to how things are going to pan out, but these are unprecedented times. But the Western League feels that the current season should be abandoned and that no promotions and relegations should take place. Basically making this season, obviously we're just over halfway through, but they feel it should probably be voided, and then hopefully nobody knows how this virus and the extent of it's gonna how long it's gonna last, etc. But hopefully can get started with the 2021 season. Hopefully can start that on time and then take that as the new starting point. The main issue with drawing a line under the season, which is, as I say, just over halfway through, I would say, in terms of fixtures in our league. Obviously, it should be a little bit further on, but we've had all those postponements and what have you. Is the promotion and relegation. There has been talk of it being on a points per game basis that could be carried out, but still plenty of games in the Premier Division and the First Division that haven't been played, so that doesn't particularly seem fair. But then I don't think fairness comes into it at a time like this. We've all got to sort of band together, don't we? But so clubs placed just below the promotion places, obviously could rightly argue that with so many games left, as I said, they would have a realistic chance of promotion. I think I haven't got the league tables right in front of me, but there's a few teams with quite a few games in hand that if they won those, they'd be overtaking quite a lot of teams in front of them. So there's still quite a lot of room for manoeuvre. And obviously at the other end of the table, Bristol Telephone, for instance, who's to say that they couldn't rack up a couple of wins? They did that recently and shorten the gap. Who's to say they couldn't continue a good bit of form and catch those teams ahead of them and potentially survive in terms of if the league season did conclude. There's obviously and the other issue that has been brought up in by the Western League was playoff matches, and obviously readiness for the 2021 season. There might not be enough time to fit those in. So quite a lot of information in that statement released on, as you said, I think it was released on Saturday.
Well, that was the state of play going into the meeting, the WebEx meeting with the Football Association on Tuesday afternoon. So I started my questions to League Chairman John Paul by asking him what we know now coming out of that meeting.
Not an answer you want, Ian, but virtually nothing. There's obviously a conflict with regards to the respective leagues. I'm talking just 5 and 6 at the moment. I think everybody's aware now of what our approach to it was, that we believe that the league should have been aborted. There are other leagues, and it's fair to say that they've got a different view on it, and they're looking at the points per game. The meeting was started by Mark Frost, the chairman of the Leagues Committee, who made it clear that their view was, as a Leagues Committee, that the season should be aborted. That was good to hear, but then he went on to express that that was not a view that was shared by the Alliance Leagues, and therefore, whilst they were trying to adopt what they termed as a cohesive approach to everything, that was obviously going to cause problems going forward. So, from our own perspective, we've not got what we wanted. because what we wanted is a decision. We could go back to the clubs, we could give a clear indication as regards to what was going to happen between now and what was supposed to be the end of the season, April the 27th. And we've not got that.
So effectively, all options are still on the table for the Football Association.
Very much so. Very much so. They as I indicated, they appear to be trying to find a way of virtually treating everybody the same way, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't know how they're ever going to do it, to be quite honest, because the National League appears to have its own agenda, whereas it does look at from steps 3 down that everybody is of the view that certainly the league needs to be terminated. I think there may be a question over with some leagues as regards to how you achieve that. And I think that is probably the dilemma they're in. But certainly the National League still is looking to see games to be played to fulfil the 1920 season. I don't know. I just don't know where they're coming from. I think they're probably allying themselves to the Football League and looking at ways and means of trying to, play more games. It really doesn't add up.
If we then look at the position that you've set out that the Western League have adopted, which is that you want the season, or you believe that the season should be abandoned and that no promotions or relegation should take place. What was the decision-making process? What was the thought behind that statement?
There's a considerable amount went into it, to be quite honest, because, like I say, we were conscious of promotion relegation. Behind all this, there was also the potential for what was, the big move, if you like, the pure pyramid attempt that they were going to have at the end of this season. So we knew that any decisions that we reached could, impact on that or not. The decision to a certain degree became fairly straightforward in the end, simply because we could not get away from the fact that there were so many games to be played that there was always the potential for having, changes within league positions, for what was left of the season. And conscious of the fact that some of those clubs were down to Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It was just, to us, a fairly straightforward decision, really, that would it not add clarity by quite simply saying abort the season to everybody? Look, we knew, obviously, that promotion and relegation was, an integral part of what it's all about. The integrity of the league was at stake here as well. And you only look at the league tables now, and then you go points per game, and all of a sudden you've caused confusion straight away. You've got clubs on the bottom of the table that still would believe, with the number of games that are being played, they could get themselves out of it. So, the points per game, really, in our view, was just never going to work.
I mean, obviously, whatever outcome we get from this process, there's going to be winners and losers. And you've talked about, clubs that may have thought they could avoid relegation. But, of course, there's going to be other clubs, at the top of both tables that were obviously looking for promotion, the likes of Plymouth Parkway and Bradford, Caen and Sherborne. I mean, you can understand why their fans, if the decision is taken to avoid the season, you can understand why their fans would be disappointed.
Absolutely, I can. I mean, you look at the Bitton situation. I mean, how tragic is that? And I mean, to be fair, that has not been part of any of the decisions that we've made, or as I'm aware, the FA have never ever put that on the table for discussion. So I don't quite know whether there will be, any solution to that with regards to the FA voting FA Trophy. At the moment, all the efforts are being concentrated on the league. And like you say, our proposal was put forward on the basis that we felt that was more equitable than really doing anything else. There's always going to be winners and losers in this, as you rightly say, and I think to start the season again with a clean sheet is probably the best solution. I wouldn't expect everybody to agree with that, but that was a view that we reached because we thought that we were being pretty much fair to everybody in the best way possible.
Now, obviously, this current crisis is far from over. And it feels in some respects that we've got far more important things to be talking about than football at the moment. But looking at the footballing situation, the football family, what are the Western League currently doing? Because I know your role hasn't stopped. Clearly, obviously, we're talking about yesterday's meeting, but the role of yourself and the board, you haven't stopped working, have you, during this crisis? So, I mean, what are you currently working on as this situation develops, and how are you looking to support the member clubs?
What we're trying to do is we want a decision as much as anybody else wants a decision. Yeah, the clubs want clarity. Good, bad, or indifferent, they want clarity. And so do we, because what we're trying to do is to actually put together like an end of season, I'll call it package. We're looking at the finance. We're fully aware of where the clubs sit at this present time. And there is a genuine fear that some clubs may not survive this. So what we're trying to do is, like I said, once we can get some decisions and we know where, finance sit, then we will be in a better position to be able to, we're having discussions. We've got ongoing proposals that we want to enlarge on. But at the moment, we can't go anywhere with it simply because we just don't know what. I mean, if you take a points per game scenario, then one would imagine that there will be winners and losers. Well, that's obviously going to change the scene somewhat in terms of prize monies and all sorts of things. So we need time to be, or we need a decision. We did approach the counties on behalf of the clubs with regards to the suspension of fines and such like. The response was very much anybody in any difficulties needs to speak to us. So that wasn't really the response we were looking for. I suppose we would like for them to sort of said, look, we'll suspend all fines. I wouldn't have expected them to the suspensions became irrelevant anyway, really. I mean, how they approach that, but it was the fines that concerned us because, there's guys out of work, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there are so many different slants on all this, and we're conscious of it. We're at it all the time. We've got on us every day. In fact, at the moment, we're looking at ways and means. We had a meeting scheduled, ironically, for yesterday with the officers. We had to abort that the night before because of the government guidelines. So we're looking at ways and means now. We're still trying to be able to communicate through WebEx or something like that, try and set something up, because we need to try to take care of the clubs in the best way possible.
I mean, obviously, you've talked about the economic hardship that the clubs are facing. There's obviously a social angle to this as well, isn't there? And I know that the league recently launched a campaign to think of a fan. So that's very much in keeping with that social ethos as well as the financial situation that you've just been describing. That
was deep, to be honest. I mean, to think of a fan, I think could be well identified by the fact that, you stand on the terraces at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you stand there with your mate and you're going to have a pint with your mate after. But what we were also conscious of, that those same people, more often than not, are integral parts of the club. And, the grass still grows, the paintbrush still comes out, and they still got an awfully important, I'm talking about people now in that vulnerable age. And if you go through all the clubs in the league, the majority have got one or more than, in some cases, people that are, elderly, if you like, and they're the backbone of clubs. And it was just, the thought was that those people, the importance of those people should never, ever be forgotten. And I think now, when you don't have that contact through a Saturday afternoon or a midweek fixture, it's easy for people to be, just forgot about, and I think that would be tragic. And the view was that think of a fan, if nothing else, just make sure that in the first instance they're okay, and the second, just make sure that you retain some sort of contact, because trust me, if and when it all starts again, they're still going to be very, very important, whether it's just stood on the terraces or still playing the part they've always played in keeping clubs going.
John, thank you very much indeed for your time. and thank you for keeping us informed about what the football's governing bodies are thinking at this very difficult time. And please, above all, stay safe.
Ian, before you go, could I just say a big thank you on behalf of the league to yourself, to James, and to Tom. The fact that you keep promoting the league in the way that you do. Toolstation is obviously important to us. That's another concern we got at the moment. We need to be speaking with sponsors and such like. So, yes, from all of us, a big thank you to yourselves as well. Thank you.
And my thanks to John for his time. Now, we'll move back to our original schedule. Had the postponement of fixtures and the coronavirus not happened, we would be concluding our series of interviews with the Chief Executive of Ref Support, Mr. Martin Cassidy. Now, this was very much part of our Love the Whistle campaign. It was a campaign promoted by the Toolstation Western League to support the outstanding work that match officials do, not just in our league, but across the leagues as well. So to try and turn back to some form of normality, we go back to that full interview I did with Martin Cassidy. And of course, I started Martin by asking him to explain what Ref Support is all about.
Hi Ian. Well, Ref Support UK are the first registered referee charity in the world. And we were created by referees who have, funny enough, all four of our trustees have officiated on the Western League for some time. And we wanted to create something to give referees independent support away from the FA. We don't receive any funding off the FA or any governing body, so we can have our independence. So we can challenge the FA on what we want to improve about referees' training and support both on and off the field of play.
In terms of the structure of the pyramid, what levels do you support referees at?
Well, we offer our support to any referee across the country, particularly referees who want to remain anonymous. We have had referees from professional level contact us for advice and support, but we like to concentrate ours on grassroots level. So we coach and mentor referees right up to level 2B, which is the conference north and south level, and right down to grassroots level for people who's just taken the referee's exam.
So obviously you're taking an interest in the Western League as a league. I mean, when you look at the standard of officiating and perhaps the treatment of match officials in the Western League at the moment, how do you assess the health of the game?
Well, the health of the game nationally is problematic. It's not just confined to the Western League, but we do work with other leagues. But because we're Southwest based and we started in the Southwest, and like I said, all our trustees have worked on the Western League. Well, combined, we've done about 100 years on the Western League. Richard Mellon, people will know Richard Mellon, people will know Dave Brammer, obviously myself and Janie Frampton, who was one of the first women to referee on the Western League alongside with, a legend lady called Wendy Toms. So we think the Western League just reflects everywhere else. The only thing that we think's absolutely brilliant about the Western League is how they've addressed the support for referees. They were the first league in the country to approach us and ask us for some independent help and support, because we won't just take the referee's side. We do offer consultancies to football clubs on things like match reports from referees about the performance, dismissals and yellow cards, and EOIs, which are extraordinary incident reports, which a referee might send in. Now, we've said this before on record that we're never going to say that every referee is perfect for the level they operate at. Some referees are up too quickly. Some referees just haven't had the soft skills training of how to deal with confrontation and challenging conversations and confrontation. And those skills are not taught by the FA at grassroots level. And we believe concentrating on those first and getting your soft skills, to a level that can help you aid your control of and your communication with players and club officials really, really helps. So that's something that we like to really concentrate on.
So when you talk about support, is your primary function really to help develop match official skills, their knowledge of the game, perhaps the way that they manage players, the way that they manage situations with managers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, all of it really. Referees, particularly at Western League level, and the assistant referees, they should be fully compliant with law. They should know if they're not up to speed with all the modern practices and law amendments, then they shouldn't be operating at that level, frankly. And I know there's some changes have come in recently, particularly at the Western League with sin bins, which are a challenge to referees. There's no doubt about that. But it's a tool that we think is a good tool to have in the box. But we concentrate on everything, really. Some people, say contact us in confidence, and others want us to go public with things that's happened to them. Some that we talk to, probably we'll tell them that maybe you could have prevented that. With our association with the Western League, particularly with some of the managers, about some of these guys that are now managers and chairmen of football clubs, we refereed. So when we go to clubs, we've got a really good connection with an awful lot of these clubs. And so a lot of them are really honest and open with us, and they tell us how they feel, and they tell us what they think of the referee, both positive and negative. But one thing that is clear is that a lot of managers, the personality changes when they're on the field to play, depends on the result of the game and their perception of the performance of the match officials. We can sit down with loads of referees in the Western League and with managers as well, and have a pint and a chat, and everything's fine if it's away from the game. The Western League Conference is a really good example of that. We love going down there and having a pint with some chairmen and managers and players, and people realise that we are fans of the game, and we're not just this necessary evil of the game.
I follow you on Twitter, as I'm sure many clubs and fans of the Western League will as well. And I've noticed that obviously you've been very keen to counteract criticism of match officials. Certainly in recent weeks, you've probably been doing it for some time. In fairness, when it comes to the criticism of match officials, are you more concerned about how the players or the managers perhaps are interacting with match officials, or are you most concerned about the way that fans are treating match officials from the sidelines?
I think it's all the above. I think it's absolutely all of the above, and we have made a concerted effort to address online abuse. You've only got to see what's happened recently in the national news of what online abuse can do, and why should referees as individuals be any exception? And it's been really interesting this last, say, week or so, because there's people I've seen on Twitter who are abusing referees almost weekly. Some of the abuse might be soft abuse, blaming him for a goal, he's missed a penalty, it should never have been a red. Some are a bit more personal, which have resulted in reports. And then these same people are then tweeting how terrible it is that people are committing suicide because of online abuse. Now, the hypocrisy of that is breathtaking. So that's the first point I want to be able to make on that. But the reason we've done it, we feel, is that clubs, players and managers have got away with it for too long of just venting their spleen on Twitter and thinking no one's going to answer them back. The FA never answered them back. Referees are told not to have social media accounts at Premier League level, and at grassroots level they're encouraged not to comment on their particular match. Now, that's very frustrating, particularly when we've been to a match and we've watched the referee have a good game or an excellent game, might have missed something. But these referees, they're absolutely castigated for making mistakes like a dodgy offside, a dodgy free kick, a dodgy penalty. But no one says anything about the player that scores an own goal, the player that gets a stupid second yellow. He's already yellowed and he says something stupid to the referee. So the hypocrisy of some of the Twitter accounts is that they won't say anything to their own players, but they'll straight away they'll jump right on the referee's back. A really good example was last week in the Forest West Brom game, and we even had a Twitter exchange with Lee Westwood, the famous golfer, because he was naming and shaming the referee, calling them all the names under the sun. And I hadn't looked at it, and people were saying to me, "Oh, you haven't seen the game, how can you comment?" But we would comment on the abuse, the validity that people think just because the referee's had a bad game, we can go out and absolutely slaughter them. Now, when I looked at that game, the Forest game, Forest lost possession down one end, which should have been a free kick. Everyone knows it now, it should have been a free kick. The referee never gave the free kick. The ball went down the other end, Forest scored, Forest went mad. But no one said anything. That goal was an own goal. All they concentrated on was that one mistake by the referee, which missed the free kick. The ball went through the midfield, through the defence, went wide, crossed the box, an own goal. Now, really, that's ridiculous, isn't it? To think that 3 phases of play nearly have resulted in an own goal. But let's forget about that. Let's blame the ref. And these are the sort of things that we just think we can't leave them unaddressed. Yeah. And we've done a blog on our website, refsupports.co.uk, about the connection between crime and referee abuse. We say in Liverpool, where I was born, and people might find this stereotypical, but the kids used to steal the signs off the back of a car. And, the Beastie Boys used to have a Volkswagen sign around their neck, and people used to copy that, and they take various signs and put it on the bedroom door, and then these people will try and get the boot of the car and take the tools out, and then you'll get the radio by getting the door, and then eventually they take the car, have a car crash, and someone gets seriously injured. I would equate that back to referee abuse. We think the taking of the sign is the online abuse. The taking of the tools is these comments on the field of play. The taking the radio is the comments in the bar. And the taking the car and having a car crash is when a referee gets physically assaulted. Yeah. So our strategy is, just like they do with crime, if you address it early on in the process, it's probably not going to escalate, or people will be a bit more aware of what the problem is. And that's why we do it.
Football is a game of opinions, isn't it? And I think that's what that's one of the the secrets of the game's success. And at the Western League level, albeit that the fans aren't paying a lot of money to go and watch, they are paying £5 to go in, so they're going to be entitled to their opinion. A lot of what we're talking about really is reflecting on the fact that referees and assistant referees are human beings. So from your perspective, and also from the perspective as a trainer who you're dealing with referees, obviously to cope with the situations that they find themselves in a stadium where there might be 100 or 200 people, and they might be having a bad day at the office, decisions might not be going their way. What would your message be to the fans, and perhaps even more broadly to the managers and the players as well, about how they should manage their criticism and their engagement with the match officials?
Well, the first line of what you just asked in your question is the one I've got the biggest problem with. It's this entitlement. They think because I paid money, I'm entitled to vent my spleen. And quite frankly, that's ridiculous. You don't pay for the right to abuse any individual anywhere. You wouldn't get someone saying, I've just bought a tin of beans from Tesco, so therefore I'm going to abuse the person at the check-in or the people that stack the shelves. So why would it be any more appropriate to do that in a football environment? So that's the first point I'd like to make there. But one of the things that we've noticed is about the Western League particularly is that the vast majority of clubs are absolutely incredible, brilliant, and we love it. We love engaging with them. But there's some that are really just off the scale with regards to how they operate, and it wouldn't be right to name those, but I think if you look at the misconduct chart, it wouldn't be too hard to find out who they are. And it's almost this default setting that when something goes wrong or we lose, it's the referee's fault. We were also looking at making T-shirts with just all my fault on. Balotelli used that T-shirt, why always me? And this has been going on for ages. It's ridiculous, and then they're saying, we can't get crowds in. Well, do you really think people want to pay something to go into the crowds and then hear the manager berating referees for 90 minutes to hear the players effing and blinding? Is that really conducive to attracting spectators to your stadium?
One of the things I've been sort of looking at for the men's 11-a-side game, which I think is underpinning some of the restructuring that the FA are looking at doing at steps 5 and 6, is the decline in numbers of men playing Saturday afternoon 11-a-side football. Is that trend mirrored in terms of match officials? Are you seeing fewer people coming forward to officiate than before?
Yes and no. I think one of the problems from a referee's perspective is that it's the demands upon the referee. Players, you had the Jurgen Klopp moaning, didn't you, about how many games Liverpool had to play. Mm-hmm. But no one thought about the referees. For instance, Martin Atkinson did something like, I think it was 9 games over 2 weeks. So some were VAR and some were fourth officials and all that, but it's the commitment to the game that happens. And what you find at Western League level is that referees at that level and above close dates, they call it. So they go on MOAS. Some people might be familiar with MOAS. And they go on MOAS and they close a date. Now, if they don't close that date, the FA can throw a game at them quite late. So this can affect the personal life and the work life. Sometimes the expectations of the FA are unfair on match officials. They expect them to be there at beck and call. So that's one problem, that people step up to Western League level, which is a great level of football, and people should aspire to operate at it. but can't commit to those levels. They can't. We've criticised the FA for sending letters out saying, not many of you are available in August. Well, August is the holiday season. The South West's amazing industry is tourism, so these referees might work in that. So there's lots of permutations with regards to referees' availability, but we would say at Western League level particularly, I think the mechanisms are in place to support referees properly. We're holding this managers forum again at Cheddar on Monday the 2nd of March, which is all about engaging with managers and players as well as referees and getting to understand not only what a referee's expectation is of a club and a team, it's the team's expectation of the match officials. And again, I'll be naive to say that sometimes the standards of the officials at Western League level hasn't fell below par. I'll be naive to say it hadn't. Obviously it does. And we just want to be able to increase the chances of everyone having a positive experience of football at Western League level, including the players, including the refs.
Part of the FA's restructuring process is going to see the footprint of the Western League expanding further down into the southwest, down into Cornwall next season. Does that represent a challenge for match officials as well, in terms of how officials will be selected for games next season?
I think it's twofold. It depends what way the FA structure this with regards to the geographical area. The Western League has a fixed fee to help clubs, which we think is a good idea to have a fixed fee. Everyone knows what the fees are each week, because clubs have rightly complained that sometimes the match fees are much more than the gate income. So having a fixed fee, we think has its positives. However, you could have people travelling from Bristol all the way down to Plymouth on a fixed fee that they might not think is adequate for the expenses of the day. Now again, going back to what we said earlier about the expectations of referees, they're expected to get to the game an hour and a half before kick-off. So if you're travelling from Bristol down to Plymouth Park, you've gone for most of the day, and you're going to get a set fee. Then the assistant referees to travel with the referee to help clubs' expenses. So then an assistant referee be out all day, might not get back till 7, 8 o'clock at night, and get 35 quid for it. So there's all those little things in there that's going to affect this. But also, referees will choose where to travel, and rightly so. I think it's fair, the same as players, when they travel so far, that there should be a limit on it. And I think referees will probably say, here are the clubs I can travel to. Now, that in itself creates problems, because you're going to the same clubs. You might be too familiar with them. That can work both ways. If you're having a great game, they're going to be happy to see you. If you had a couple of poor games and sent off the captain and give 2 penalties against them, probably not going to be happy to see you. So there's lots of different problems that are going to occur here. From our point of view, as a charity, it won't affect us. We've got people all over the southwest who can help clubs. We even went down to Bristol Parkway when they won a Vars recently, which was a great result, not only for the club but also for the league. So geographically to us, it doesn't really matter, because we got such a huge group of coaches. But from the referee's point of view, there are going to be challenges that they might not be used to. Also, which is all the clubs should be aware of this. If they're not, they need to look at it. Some of them complain about the standards of refereeing now in the Premier Division. That's now going to drop down a level to what's known as level 4. So level 4s currently do the Western League First Division only in regards to the Western League, but now they'll do the Premier. Now, the knock-on effect of that is numbers. There's going to have to be significant increase in the amount of level 4s, but more importantly, the standard of assistant referee now drops. So you'll have a level 5, 6, and maybe level 7 referees during the line. So the Western League, in fairness to them, are being very proactive about this and offering training out to assistant referees and to referees to ensure that they are ready for these changes, which we think are positive.
So obviously, with more pressure on the match officials, it's going to be even more important to get people interested in this side of the game, isn't it? And I think one of the wonderful things about grassroots football is it provides people who have a love of football with an opportunity to get involved in a number of different areas, whether they're volunteering at their club or whether they're doing the media side of things like I do. But, I mean, from your perspective, obviously you're keen on encouraging people to become match officials and to take that side of the game up as well. So if there are people out there who have considered becoming a match official, but perhaps they've been a little bit put off by the treatment that they've seen at some games, what would your message to those people be?
Take it up, absolutely take it up. We're about as well to help people engage. There's some great county FAs in the region, and there's some county FAs that could help referees more. But like I said right at the beginning of this interview here, the trustees, we've been friends for 20 or 30 years. In refereeing, you make some brilliant friendships. I can go into pubs in Bristol and bump into a player or a manager, and we have a pint. You can make some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful long-term friendships. Referees have met the husbands, the wives, girlfriends by being a referee. And I would advise anybody to get off the PlayStation, get out of the bedroom, get off the couch, and get out and take a referee's course. It's a great way to increase your social engagement and, again, your soft skills, and just meet people who are football lovers like you are. Please, to the FA, which is something they don't do, they don't make people aware when they take the referee's course that there is a problem with referees abuse. And I believe if the FA just looked at that a bit more realistically and looked at it in a realistic way to say, you are going to get some stuff said to you that you won't like, but this is the minority. However, what we have seen is that there has been an increase of this level of abuse, which is that we're trying to address. And I just think with the right support, I think everyone will. More referees will engage. Therefore, you know, more referees to pick from. You have more referees to pick from. The standards will increase. Players should be a little happy with that. And everybody wins. And I just think it's everyone's responsibility, referees as well, to address the levels of abuse that appears to be going on at every level of the game.
Martin, thank you very much for your time. We could talk all day, I'm sure, but it's been fantastic to hear your perspective and also about the wonderful work that Ref Support do. So please keep up that excellent work.
Well, thank you for giving us the time. Again, it's great that people engage with us and let people know that we're here to help clubs as well as referees, and we're happy to do so all free of charge. So thank you, Ian, and thank you to the Western League.
And my thanks to Martin for his time. Now, Tom, that's nearly it from you and me today, but I thought that what we might do in these difficult times is perhaps turn to I know you're a man who has a great deal of interest in other sporting areas. We've spoken a couple of times on the podcast about your love of American football. So for a sports junkie like yourself, when you're in lockdown, what have you been able to feed your habit with?
It's a very difficult. I mean, yeah, as you say, I follow sports from all over the globe, and when things started getting postponed, you thought, there'll be something with me to keep watching. But then it, as viruses do, it's spread, and everything seems to be in the can at the moment. I think it was Australia that held on the longest. It seemed to. I think they're a little bit behind in terms of numbers. So there's rugby league over there, which did take place last weekend. So I was able to tune in for the last round of those games before that finally got postponed on Tuesday. I think they had to give up the ghost. I think when sort of the borders were closed and what have you, and so stuff like that. The A-League, also obviously in Australia, the last proper football league to kind of keep going until the inevitable, and then also they actually played the first weekend of fixtures in the AFL, Aussie rules, which seems a bit barbaric, trying to kickstart a competition. That'd be like the Premier League starting last weekend and then say, oh wait, we're going to have to close down. So a bit of an odd one, but they did manage to get their first weekend in, so I did tune in for a bit of that. But now it's, as I said, movies seems to be the one thing. Obviously got a few Netflix, and then in terms of sport, it's watching old stuff, I guess. I got quite a few DVDs of past World Cups and Olympic Games, and tune into and watch bits and bobs like that, just to sort of keep the juices flowing as best as possible. And obviously had the worst news yesterday that the Olympics has been pushed back. So plenty to look forward to in 2021 if everything can return to some sort of normality next year. But yeah, it's pretty difficult times.
Well, I look forward to catching up with you next week, Tom. Perhaps we can introduce a feature, Tom's Week of Sport on Television. I'm sure we can come up with a far better title than that. But that's your brief anyway. That's your homework
Sounds good.
while you're in lockdown. And any recommendations you want to give us on sort of, like the wider world of cinema or Netflix, then feel free to do that as well. But obviously anything with a sporting theme would be very good. And if we do have the capacity to bring it back to the Western League, even the better. But anyway, we'll look after yourself, Tom. Stay safe. And just before we go, one final mention. The Toolstation Western League last week launched a campaign called Think of a Fan. Now, for many of us, when we go out on a Saturday afternoon or even in midweek fixtures, we often see some familiar faces at the football clubs that we go to, not necessarily even the clubs that we support, but also those regular away trips as well. You start to make friends across the Western League. And at this time when we can't not only watch football, but we can't even get out of our homes, those relationships, those casual relationships, take on a new meaning. There's a chap who takes my money from me when I go to Devizes on the gate. Always a cheery chap. Always have a little chat with him, see him in the bar. Don't know his name. Now, next time I see him, I shall ask him his name. And it's little anecdotes like that, really, I think, that make us think of a fan, particularly those fans that are in those vulnerable categories or the high-risk categories, that for them, Toolstation Western League football is an opportunity to get out of the house and socialise with people. It might be that we only spend a couple of minutes talking to them or saying hello, but that could make a huge amount of difference, not just to their mental health, but their enjoyment of the game of football that, of course, we all love. So when the midweek fixtures come around this week, and when the Saturday fixtures come around next week, think of a fan. Think of somebody that perhaps you can get in touch with on the phone or on Skype or on social media or email or something, even if it's a friend of a friend. Think of somebody and ask the question, are they okay? Do they need any help? Because there are plenty of people at the moment doing some incredible work, volunteering to support their local communities. Some of our clubs I've seen have been doing some fantastic work as well. I saw Westbury at the weekend tweeted out about a food parcel that they were able to get out to vulnerable people in their areas. So plenty of examples of ways that Western League clubs and supporters are supporting people in their communities, because as we all know, our clubs are community hubs. So with that in mind, think of a fan. Tom, please, thank you very much for your time today. Please stay safe, and I look forward to catching up with you on next week's Toolstation Western League podcast.